We are here at SEMA 2025 and I have not given it an official walk around of Project X, my Xterra build, until now. So I am going to film this here live at SEMA because it's the perfect place to do it, and I'm going to tell you all of the details that went into making Project X. Now, Project X started about a year and a half ago when I called a friend of mine and I told him that I was going to build the modern Nissan Xterra, and he told me no. This was before the Xterra revival had been announced, and Xterra had been, you know, it's a hot topic for Nissan and the enthusiasts, so I decided to take it upon myself and build one. So let's cover what I did. So I have shown the front of this build over and over again, but I haven't really talked about what I did to the rear to make it modern. So let's take a peek at some details to bring this to that modern Xterra. So starting with the tail light, that is from a 2022 Plus Frontier. Now, a lot of Frontier parts were utilized to make this a modern Xterra. So what I had to do in the rear was completely reshape the hatch and build in that pocket to house that new tail light design. And I think it came out pretty well. One thing that I will note that I discovered is if I look at it dead on, it looks like a Gen 1 Xterra. That Gen 1 Xterra had those up and down taillights, and you don't really notice it till you turn the corner, and then you see, hey, that's a new Frontier taillight. And while we're back here talking about the rear, yes, I removed the signature hump, but I'll tell you why. So the first reason is I wanted to give the back of the Xterra a modern look. So I thought by smoothing that rear end down, it would change the dynamic and the design of what the Xterra is. That's the first answer. Let me give you the real answer. The real answer is that it was an accident. I had a previous note written on the hatch that said remove hump ? And the body shop took it literal. However, it was a very happy mistake and I think it looks awesome, even though it's controversial. Now, the Xterra is known for kind of like a bargain off-roader. It's a hidden gem, but I wanted to showcase that the Xterra is an off-roader, and that's why I teamed up with Hammerhead Armor to build this rear bumper that has that tire carrier. They also did some rock sliders and the complete front bumper as well. And as you can see, there are some reverse lights housed in there, the tires mounted flawlessly, and it just kind of gives Xterra Project X that capable and confident look that we all know and love about our Nissan Xterra. Another detail is that I removed the rear nozzle for the windshield wiper fluid and actually added a camera that pairs up to the rear view mirror. And see that detail? Since 2000. Now, one thing that was important to me was to retain that roof line, that roof rack design. I even was able to come up with my own graphic that mimics that Xterra decal that is on the roof rack. And then coming down, you can see that I had to keep the boob lights. Now, in the Xterra world, these lights are called the boob lights, and I was able to retrofit them with some Nismo lights as well to give it a fresh and updated look. Now let's talk about the front. This is what everybody is talking about. This front end is off a 2022 Plus Nissan Frontier. And now before I get into talking about how I did this, I'm gonna highlight some stuff that make it unique. So looking at the face of the build, you have a Hammerhead Armor steel front bumper that has the Nismo fog lights recessed in there, as well as some recovery hooks. Now I know the grille looks OEM, but it's not. Fly1 Motorsports was able to delete the embossed Frontier because this is no longer a Frontier, and was able to do a full carbon fiber frame. And the reason I did it is because it's SEMA, right? Gotta have some carbon fiber. Speaking about carbon fiber, this is the Seibon OEM replacement hood for the 2022 Frontier. However, it does have a functioning hood scoop, and we'll talk about what's under there in just a moment. I decided to paint the hood mainly because I like the flow of it with the fenders, but had to leave the carbon fiber scoop because, well, SEMA. Now coming around this side, you can see that the fender bolts up perfectly to the A-pillar and blends nicely in with this 2025 Frontier door. So this is the point in the video where you're probably asking yourself, well, how did he do it? How did he get that Frontier front end on an Xterra? Well, I'm gonna tell you. All you have to do is swap off a core support that bolts up OEM and some hinges from a 2022 Plus Frontier, and that gets your hood and everything you need to mount up your grille, your headlights, and your fenders. That's literally it. Your fenders are gonna bolt on to that front core support, to that front bumper, headlights slide in, and everything just kind of fits. Now, the only modification that we will talk about is we had to cut the A-pillar. Here is where we had to reshape the A-pillar to accommodate a higher Frontier fender. Now, it came out pretty good, actually. It looks OEM, but this is the only modification you're gonna have to do to get that front end to fit on. But then there's the door. Let's talk about the door. The door is a direct bolt-on. The top hinge is from an Xterra and the bottom hinge is from a Frontier. All you have to do is swap one hinge and it bolts up and it fits. 99% OEM. Let's talk about the 1%. This is where we had to do some modifying. Now, the door sits a little further out than the Xterra door, and then coming down, it has a whole different body line here. So we had to reshape the rear of the Xterra door to accommodate those new body lines. And as you can see, they line up pretty good. Now, do you have to do doors to do the front end conversion? Well, you do, because if you look, that fender matches perfectly to that front door. So yes, you will have to do front doors if you want to add this to your Xterra. Now, I'm gonna pop the hood and I'm gonna show you what engine is under it, but let's talk about the engine situation. So initially, this was LS swapped. LOJ Conversions did a phenomenal job LS swapping this with a 6.2 liter V8 that was paired with the factory 6-speed manual, but it became kind of controversial within the inner workings of getting this build done. Some of my friends questioned it, and it was, you know, if you're gonna build the true enthusiast Xterra, it's gotta have a Nissan engine in it, and I agreed, and at the very last minute, we swapped in a VK56 from the Nissan Titan, and I think you will all agree that this is the true enthusiast spec. It is a V8 6-speed manual Xterra, and this was made possible by a lot of people, starting with Brennan from Driven Desire that made all the custom harnesses. C3 Adapters was able to get the adapter plate for the 6-speed manual paired to the VK. Z1 Motorsports was able to provide an intake and a snorkel, and I must tell you, that it just fits like a glove. We've got some shorty headers from JBA, and it is just a monster. And I think that you can all agree that for this to be a true enthusiast spec Nissan Xterra, it has to have a heart from a Nissan, and that it does. Now, there's only been a couple pictures of it on the inside. Well, I think it's time to show you. Now, because this is a 2025 Nissan Frontier door, it has a 2025 Nissan Frontier door panel. Now, the only thing I did to this was kind of customize it and paint the insert to match the inside. But as we turn and we look, yes, we have a full Nissan Frontier interior. Now, this dash is specifically from a 2025 Plus. That's why it has the 12.3-inch screen here. And then it does have that new steering wheel, and it has all of the buttons that would come from a Nissan Frontier. And yes, you can see we've got 3 pedals and a parking brake out of a Nissan Frontier that fits and bolts up OEM. One small detail, I was even able to have the seatbelts color match to the interior and to the outside, and I love that detail. Now, the center console is one of my favorite details. As you can see, it fits perfectly to the carpet in a Nissan Xterra. Kind of wild, huh? But coming back up here, you can see that it flows perfectly. You have your gear lever here, and I did have to modify that a little to get the boot to work. But then a good friend of mine, Jonas, was able to make this delete panel as to where the automatic transmission lever used to be. And look, I've got cup holders. I've got cup holders. It's pretty amazing in here. You might be wondering, how did I get the dash in and what makes it work? Well, to put a 2022 and up Frontier dash in your Nissan Xterra, you need a crash bar, a heater box, a steering column, and a dash. And it all bolts in OEM, nothing was modified. I know that's gonna drive everybody crazy, and you might think, oh, Nick just slid stuff in. It wasn't quite as easy as I'm making it sound like, but yes, the dash bolts up OEM. Yes, the crash bar slides in. Yes, the steering column works. It's wild. Another thing that I'll point out is these are 2022 plus Nissan Frontier seats, and as you guessed it, they bolt up perfectly into a Nissan Xterra. Now, some details in the back is I did use the OEM Nissan Xterra seats and just matched the leather to those, so that was pretty easy. And as you can see, I did use the Nissan accessory seat back organizers, which is great for going on off-road trips. However, do you guys see the door panel? It's rhino lined. I wanted the entire back of the area to be able to be wiped out and to be functional, just like a Nissan Xterra should be. Now, the engine isn't the only thing that is Titan swapped on this Xterra build. So is the suspension. With the help of CJD, Nismo, and Z1 Off-Road, we were able to get this thing completely Titan swapped, and it has given it a wild, not only stance, but capability to match. This is one of my favorite suspension setups I have ever run, and it just gives it such a capable and confident look, and I couldn't be happier with the way it sits. Now let's talk about wheels, tires, and brakes. I am running the Dynapro XT tires by Hankook, and if you're wondering about the tire size, well, there it is. These are 285/75 17s. The wheel setup is simple. I had to go with the Nismo wheels because Nismo Nick, Nismo wheels, and these are the access wheels that are beadlock capable, and I did add the beadlock ring that is an accessory straight from Nismo, and I think paired with the Hankook tire, it's just a perfect look. And behind that Nismo access wheel is the 6-piston brake setup from Concept Z and Paragon. This was built specifically for the Xterra project and also features a 2-piece rotor. I must tell you, with that V8, I could definitely use the extra stopping power. Now, taking a peek at the rear suspension, you can see that I was able to utilize CJD and Z1 Off-Road to get the rear of this lifted just like the front. And I'm also utilizing a modified version of the Z1 Off-Road Xterra exhaust. And that's it. That's the Xterra build. That's a year and a half of a vision that turned into a running and driving vehicle that is behind me. And I hope that all of you, the enthusiasts, Nissan fans, all love what I did. And I hope that you guys agree with all the things that I chose to make Xterra live on. Now, I said I was gonna build something for SEMA next year, and I'm still feeling that, but I might. So make sure you like and subscribe because you never know what I'm gonna do next.